Yeah.
Damn, I
Damn, I
wish.
wish. So this is the part of the show. Damn, I wish. Where our lives are filled with remorse. No, this part of the show
Wish I was a
where we
member. I wish I'd planted that. God, so
God.
much.
No, it's, here we are in February and what's looking good in your garden, and you might be sort of scratching your head, but there are some beautiful things, and each of us has something,
Including
a
Rochelle.
including
Did you bring
Rochelle,
yours,
and
Rochelle? You got something to lay down? You do.
I
Okay,
did. I do.
awesome. Fantastic.
I have to confess, I had such an impossible time picking. I mentioned going to the Wakefield Arboretum, and the thing that inspired me there so much is that they have this conifer garden, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And now I am thoroughly obsessed. Like, I've been kind of obsessed with grasses for a long, long time. And now I'm like kind of obsessed, even to the point I joined the Conifer Society. I'm like, who am I?
Yay, that's great.
I have never joined a plant society. I haven't done anything with them yet, but I was so inspired by that garden that I've been starting to pick up conifers and sort of loosely beginning the assembling of converting this big bed into conifers. So I have um, this evergreen thing going, but what I really wish I'd planted, because I'm in the process of planting those. And once I have a conifer garden, it will look so amazing at this time of year. I can't even tell you. I'm so excited. But we just finished, literally, I finished editing it today. This is for the January, February issue about marcescent leaves
oh, yeah.
on and trees and shrubs that have marcescent leaves. And I'm
So
like,
explain
damn,
that term to our listeners who don't know what it means.
it is trees and shrubs whose leaves, they're deciduous trees and shrubs, but whose leaves don't actually shed in the fall. So they brown, but they don't shed until the spring. And what's interesting about it is I really don't know why. The science of it is really not very understood. Why do trees and shrubs do it? They suspect for all different reasons. But beech trees are a big one that do that. And James McGrath, he's somebody I've followed for a long time, and he's actually just about to join the board of the AHS. He created the most beautiful reeds, winter reeds from branches of beech trees that are just stunning all through the entirety of winter. These twiggy, yellowy, leafy things that I'm thoroughly obsessed with. So, damn, I wish I
American
had a
beech.
beech tree I could go harvest branches from for a beautiful wreath for my door. That's what I'm
Is he
kind
on
of obsessed
Instagram,
with.
Rochelle? Is James
He
McGrath on
is.
Okay, well, that issue, if you get onto your computer listeners after this wonderful episode and become a member of the AHS, then you can get that actual issue
We have a
sent
whole
to your
story
door.
about marcescent leafed
Yeah.
plants and
Yeah.
shrubs and
When I
trees.
think of marcescence, I always think of a young oak. You're like, you're driving down the street and somebody else is driving. You're looking out the window. You're like, why didn't that tree lose its leaves? And it's right
Exactly.
next to another tree of the same kind. Young oaks, beech. I wasn't aware.
Hawthorn.
Any other hawthorns? It's very
There
cool.
are some hamamelas and like
Yeah,
the one in
yeah.
Yes.
Rochester that
Like
I
the
brought
ones
Yes.
up.
that
Yeah.
the ones that you wish
Yep.
would push off those leaves because they're
Yeah.
ruining the
It's
blooms.
true. It's true.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And it is a very
Yeah.
ghostly, beautiful look. I have two beautiful sort of, I'd say 15 to 20-foot beech in my forest. And I know that that's that secondary layer that's starting to come up. And once it's in place, then a lot of the invasive shrubs that I am having to pull out will not be able to grow. Those beech forests are so beautiful. They're so clean underneath because they just stop everything else from growing. We're not there yet, but boy, I wake up in the morning and look out the window and it's just such a
Yeah.
spectacular sight holding on to those leaves.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
I
cool.
always just thought up until we did this story, I'm like, that's just so weird. It probably just, I literally thought that the wind was like responsible for blowing some of them off. And like maybe that weird tree that
Avoided
still
that
has
tree.
its leaves is just weirdly outside of a wind current or something. I've noticed it, but I never
Yep.
really thought it was a thing. So I learned something with this story too. And now I'm kind of looking for it everywhere, which is
Yeah.
cool.
All right, I'll go next. And I am going to bring up the topic of hellebores.
Ugh,
Um,
mm,
it's February, of course, hellebores, hellebores, hellebores. But I want to pick out a very specific series, a new hybrid, not new-ish hybrid, called the Ice and Roses series. And I've been growing this for probably about 5 years now, and I grow a lot of hellebores, all different kinds of hellebores. And I am so just amazed by the robustness of this particular cultivar. This is one of the newer hybrids that has the outward facing blooms. A lot of the hybridus or orientalis cultivars that we have that we think of as Lenten roses, those sort of droop down. They are beautiful, beautiful plants, and they're also incredibly hardy. You can leave leaves all over them. You can, do whatever you want with them, and they just seed and keep seeding in all sorts of different colors. Well, these other types that we have, like the Ballardii, Eric Smithii, these are all hybrids, usually of a little bit of Niger and a little bit of oh heck, Argodiphorus, folius, I think. Is that right?
uh,
Argodiphorus. Doesn't really matter. It does to the breeders. but but this Ice and Roses series has those leathery leaves, those outward facing blooms, and unlike a lot of these hybrids, it's very robust. It is strong. These are incredible bloomers. Usually they're just a plain green leathery foliage. They don't have the gorgeous, yeah, the
Variegation.
variegation
Love
that you
that.
find
Yeah.
in some of the others. That I grow those too, and some of them are quite strong, but not all of them. But I find that as long as I keep the crowns of these plants above, high and dry, so that they are not being covered by leaves, they're not being covered by soil or silt or over a long summer, but keep those crowns a little higher, they do beautifully. And I grow red, white, pickety, and pink. But there's a whole list of them. If you're looking to play around with hellebores and you want to do some outward facing, you should definitely look into the Ice and Roses series. Trader Joe's carries it, but you're not going to be
oh wow.
sure. Yeah, Trader Joe's is where I originally found these, and they did not say this is Ice and Roses. It was Trader Joe's hellebore.
Mm,
That's
And
plain enough. Let's
yeah,
keep it simple.
and I've bought a lot of the Niger hybrid or the Niger's hybrids from them, the HGC series, which is Helleborus Gold Collection. Those are all whites and they are earlier blooming and they're a little bit tougher. So do be careful. But if you see these in beautiful bloom at Trader Joe's, it's real possible that that's what you're getting and you're going to be getting a deal and a half. So stock up. Yeah, it took me a while to find out what they exactly were, but I did eventually. So 5 to 9, zone 5 to 9, they they just don't like to be wet. They don't want to be
hmm.
in wet soils. They like shade. They'll deal with quite a bit of sun. They're just an all-round fabulous plant. And at this time of year, if you've got those bulbs coming up, especially snowdrops coming up around them, you're going to be looking in somebody else's garden and going, oh man, I wish I planted that. What is it? So get
I've got
some.
a question for you
Yeah.
on cultivation. Will you have already clipped away last year's foliage from your hellebores? Do you bother, or do
That's
you
a
just?
half. Yeah, that's a half and half when it comes to this series because I've got a lot of new foliage that comes up in sort of December, January. There's like little bits of new coming up and it's quite flush. Then some of the old stuff needs to be trimmed because it's brown. But if it's not
Yeah,
brown, I don't trim it. Now, a
yeah.
little bit different on the Orientalis. I don't know what you do, Rochelle. Do you grow a lot of hellebores?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I
Are you
only
naked
prune if
stem
it's
girl or are you the whole
yeah, they
deal?
can be. Well, because a lot of times just yeah, like the snow is still on the ground and they're
Mhm.
struggling to get through it. So it just depends on the year. But yeah, I just prune if they're bothering me, if they're getting
Yeah.
ugly. Like that's all I do. If it's green and nice, I leave it. If it's ugly and ratty,
Yeah,
off it
the old
goes.
adage of editing, you don't
Yeah,
have to tidy, tidy,
yeah,
tidy, just edit, and
yeah.
you end up but I for that, because they're such heavy leaves, they're so leathery, I'd feel like, "Oh, I'd maybe be weakening the plant if I did too much of that."
Yeah.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
I feel like it needs that for
I like the
preservation.
leaves. I don't ever
Yeah.
really wanna I like those big a couple of mine just get they're these massive clumps now, and I love the way the leaves kind of hold up all those I mean, the stems they don't
Yeah.
need to be held up, but or the flowers, but,
They frame it, don't they? They frame
they
them.
really do. They're
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I've played around with the Orientalis hybridus, sort of the droopy guys, and just played with beds that only have the flowers coming up. It always looks a little naked to me. I'd always much
Yeah.
rather have a little bit of green, as long as it's
Mhm.
not too ratty looking. What about you, Les?
Yeah.
I am the scalped look in this little tiny garden. In my old woodland garden, I just said, "Oh no, we need some green. This is great," which actually plays into my plant that I'm going to tell you about, which is green in winter. But in my new garden, there were two reasons why I scalped them, particularly this year. I moved a bunch around. I was going to damage those leaves anyway. It is so small that the naked stems coming up is kind of more, what are you doing? What are you doing there? It's not a woodland look. It's a very small cultured,
Oh,
horticultured
okay.
look. And also I couldn't actually understand where I was going to sink all those bulbs that I went to town on. And I needed to get rid of the foliage to see, where does this plant end? Where does the land begin? So they're all
Mhm.
gone. But speaking of evergreens in the garden, some foliage that you might want to have in yours is and it's got a fabulous name. That's one of the best parts about it. It's the poet's laurel. Um,
Oh.
it's a very interesting plant. It's actually the only one of its type. It's a monotypic plant. So that's it in that it's the only one of its
And it and
species,
its
right?
and its botanical name is Poetus lordicollis. Come on, let's bring it in. Come on, Les.
Danae Danae racemosa. And so that's Danae. And I saw a couple of different pronunciations from that, but I go with Danae. What do you guys
Yeah, I
do?
think probably Danae.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I would
Yeah.
go with.
But
Mm-hmm.
I love the poet's laurel name, even though it's much
That is
longer.
pretty beautiful. Because
It
you
is
can
pretty
make
beautiful.
a little
Right,
thing
and
around your.
actually, according to Tony Avent, that's where it came from. It has a history in Greek and Roman culture representing praise for a victory or great achievement in the form of a laurel crown. Danae
Ah.
woven stem wreaths were also bestowed on revered members of society who, if they then lived off of past glories, were said to be resting on their laurels, even though their
Oh.
laurels were on
Oh,
their
this
head.
is that laurel.
I guess.
Okay. The one that
I
we're
don't know.
resting on all the time, Les. We really got to up our
We're
game.
totally, I know.
Constantly
So,
resting on our
this
laurels.
is it's officially a shrub, but it's an evergreen something something. It's not really woody. It grows so incredibly slowly that it's one of those great pass along plants. The industry doesn't really want to touch it because it just takes, oh, we've got a new little baby here. And 10 years later, we'll have something we can sell. It's not a great
So,
business
what's the
model.
zone on that guy?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so specific, 7, 8, and 9.
Because I was going to say, there's no way
Oh.
Rochelle's growing that because it looks like
I
dirt
know. I was like
bare.
starting to pull up my phone. I'm like, can I grow
I
this? No, I guess
know.
not. I'll
No,
put my phone down.
Rochelle, let me just tell you, I'm in that marginal place and it looks bedraggled. It looks like you are the lowest of the low poets. If you put that around you, you
Mm,
just suck.
mm.
You're not,
So I'm
Where
in
are you at,
Charlottesville.
Leslie? Oh,
I'm in
Charlottesville.
Charlottesville. So I'm
Yeah.
just south of Marianne, but I really am much warmer, I
Warmer.
guess, as
Yeah.
a whole zone, maybe, or at least half a zone. So it was growing beautifully in my big garden where I went to check on it. I moved away from a big garden about 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh, that's getting bigger so slowly. I mean, when they say 4 by 4, I don't know if we're going to live long enough for anything.
Oh
I
boy.
mean, it's just so slow. Deer don't want to touch it unless they're incredibly hungry. So that's a good thing. It's got these deep, glossy foliage. It's sort of an ovate leaf about 2 to 3 inches long. It's not actually a leaf. It's like part of the stem that's squished to look like a leaf. This is what I'm reading. I don't know. It's a weirdo plant, but it is super duper in the cut. You can make those wreaths out of it and I guess rest on them because they won't turn brown. If you, I would say that, Rochelle, you might want to look for it because apparently people who can't grow it are fairly familiar with it if they are experienced cut flower arrangers
Mhm.
because
Oh.
it's so good that way.
Tell me
So
the second Danae, the last part.
Racemosa.
racemosa.
And
Mhm.
Matt Mattis, who is
Oh,
fantastic at what
my
he does,
neighbor.
writes for
Oh,
you
is he?
and your
Nice.
neighbor. Yeah,
Yeah.
he will
Oh,
know a
well.
lot about that. And I bet you he might have that in his greenhouse. He may have made
Oh, he
more room
probably
for
does.
sarcococa because there's, that similar evergreen small leaf.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It's
just
in
to
the asparagus family,
massive.
evidently. So if you can, oh, and now think what else is in the asparagus family? Oh, it's sort of like the rhodea, right?
Which
Or
we can
the
grow, yeah, which is very hardy.
So, and does yours have these berries on it, like the
yeah.
red or
So
orange berries, or?
once again, I grew things that were so small that they didn't berry for me when I lived there.
Oh,
Now I just
right.
went back and I didn't see any berries, but I think only a very mature plant does berry. Do
Okay.
yours, Marianne? Does yours berry?
No, no, I told you it's been beaten. It looks like it's part of a domestic incident every
Okay.
year. It's slowly getting bigger, but it's just not in a sheltered enough spot, and I'm not positive I have a sheltered enough spot for it. And
It
and every
wants shade, by the
when I'm
way,
in
listeners.
England and I see it there, and it's this large, I mean, it's just glossy and beautiful, and in the winter, oh, so beautiful. And then I think, okay, I got to move that and put it somewhere. But I mean, mine is slowly getting bigger. It just looks a little bit bedraggled. So we'll
Yeah.
see. Maybe as the
Shade
warmer,
plant for sure, and
yeah,
it loves a little bit of moist soil, but it is one of those rare plants that once established can take the very difficult and wonderful thing that we all have in our gardens, which is dry
the
shade.
shade,
So,
like
yeah.
ruscus. Yeah.
Yeah, like ruscus. So
All
that's
right.
my plant.
All right. We did this.